Hey guys, welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to cover the AWS Global Infrastructure. That is the name that AWS assigned to the various infrastructure, including the data centers and the availability zones and other equipment that they have all over the world. So let's have a look at how it's composed. So firstly, we have regions. The regions are separate physical locations around the world. Now, there are lots and lots of regions around the world, and the list is growing all the time. Within each of the regions, we have multiple availability zones, usually at least 3. Sometimes there's more than that. For example, US East 1 there has 6 availability zones at the time of this recording. All of those numbers can always change. Now, an availability zone is one or more physical data centers. So just consider it to be a separate data center. Now, that means that you can spread your resources across availability zones, and there's less correlation in terms of failure. So if one data center fails for some reason, then the other one shouldn't. So you can spread your resources and make sure that you always have your applications running when you need them. Now, all of the regions are connected around the world by AWS Global Network. That's a network that's managed by AWS. They make sure that there's plenty of bandwidth and they manage the latency, so you get great performance when you're moving data between AWS regions. Now, within each region as well, there's lots of networking capability that's always redundant. Now, what else is there other than regions? So we have regions and availability zones. Within the availability zones, we create subnets, which can be public or private, and that's where we launch our resources. There's also other ways that you can leverage AWS services. For example, if you have a corporate data center, you can actually get a piece of hardware that comes into your data center. It's called AWS Outposts. And AWS Outposts supports a subset of services available from AWS. So not everything, but things like EC2 can be run on premises. And it has connectivity, of course, back to an AWS region. Next, we have something called a local zone. These are a bit like availability zones, and they're usually in metropolitan areas. And the idea is that they get your resources just a bit closer to where you are. So if there's a local zone that's closer to your office or your data center than the actual region data centers themselves, then that can be a good place to launch your resources. And you pay a bit more for it, but you get lower latency. Then we have wavelength zones. These are for 5G. So if you, for example, have mobile applications and you want to make those available over the 5G network, you can deploy your applications in a wavelength zone. And again, it's about lowering the latency, lowering the delay between the server or the mobile application in this case, and the actual service that's being delivered from the data center. And again, wavelength zones have connectivity back to the AWS region. So they're about performance, about increasing performance for your applications and connecting them to your end users or to the servers in your data center. Now let's break down a region to give you a bit more detail about the level of redundancy here. So here I'm just showing 2 availability zones. There's usually more than that. So each availability zone can then be used to create subnets. Okay, a subnet is just an IP networking space. So you can create public subnets. They have public accessibility. That means your applications like your web servers can be available on the internet, or you can create private subnets that have no direct connectivity from the outside world. Now, each availability zone has redundant power sources, so you're not reliant on one power source there. If one fails, the other one should pick up the load. We also have redundant networking, both within the availability zone and between availability zones. Now, availability zones have low latency between them, so the network performance between availability zones and within them, of course, is very good. And that's because the availability zones are relatively close together. AWS don't specify exactly how close, but they're relatively close within a metropolitan area. On the other hand, the actual regions are fairly distant from each other. So it makes sense to keep your applications, make them highly available within a region so that you've got great performance and you can fail over very quickly between one availability zone and another. However, if for disaster recovery purposes you need to have a copy of your applications more geographically distant, then that's where you would put them into a separate region. So now we can deploy our resources across our different subnets within different availability zones, and that's how we get high availability. And we'll see how we can then connect to them a bit later on. Another component of the AWS Global Infrastructure is Amazon CloudFront. CloudFront is a content delivery network. What that simply means is that content, for example, videos or images, can be cached at different places around the world. And that means that users in those different places in the world are able to access those resources with lower latency. Again, it's about network performance. It's about the performance of the application. If you want to watch a video from Australia, you don't want that video to be physically located in the US because that's a long way away and the performance won't be good. So CloudFront makes sure that it's cached in different parts of the world so that there should be a copy of that video closer to you. Now, with AWS, we can, of course, very simply deploy services globally. Absolute game changer with the cloud here. In the past, when I used to have to deploy resources into different data centers in different parts of the world, it was extremely difficult. It was also extremely expensive. Now, with the management console, the CLI, or the API, you can deploy resources all over the world. For example, here we're launching virtual servers and databases in different parts of the world. And in some cases, you might set them up to be redundant and automatically copying data between them and synchronizing that data. Very, very easy to set up in the cloud. Very difficult to do it outside of the cloud when you're managing all of that infrastructure yourself.